The Ford government says it has reached a tentative deal with the union representing public high school teachers to avoid a strike this fall by using binding arbitration if needed. And now the OSSTF is responding to the education minister's comments. Let's listen in.
OSSTF FASO held a special meeting with our local bargaining unit presidents and chief negotiators from across the province. I am pleased to announce that at this meeting, leaders voted overwhelmingly to recommend that OSSTF FASO members accept a proposal to resolve bargaining with the Ford government through a process that could include binding interest arbitration. But I want to stress this proposal is not a tentative agreement. I just heard in a press conference a couple of times that we have a tentative agreement, and I believe I also heard that we have a tentative deal, and that is incorrect. We have not reached a deal, and in fact, we will continue to bargain, but this proposal does establish a clear pathway forward for this round of bargaining that could potentially end in arbitration. We have been bargaining with the Ford government for 13 months, and since the beginning, we have been fighting to improve the learning and working conditions in Ontario schools. But the Ford government and school boards have refused to be a fair partner in these negotiations. This process that we are now bringing to our members promises to break any impasse at the bargaining table by bringing in a third-party arbitrator to seek a fair and just resolution. OSSTF FASO is a democratic organization, and it's imperative that we give our members the opportunity to learn more about this proposal and have the final say. We will now begin preparations for an internal membership vote that will take place through September. More than 60,000 members from across the province will have the opportunity to vote on whether they want to accept the proposal. If members vote in favour of the proposal to resolve bargaining, central bargaining will continue until October 27th, and then any matters that have not yet been settled will go to arbitration. If the membership votes no on this proposal, it will be dropped and bargaining will continue. The proposal to resolve bargaining with the Ford government, potentially through arbitration, also guarantees that members will receive a remedy for wages lost under Bill 124, which is the Ford government's disastrous legislation that suppressed wages and unfairly targeted women-dominated public sector workers. Our members would receive a remedy without waiting for the courts to decide on the bill's constitutionality. If accepted, the proposal that provides that there will be no job action or lockouts during this round of bargaining between the government and OSSTF FASO, as any items that cannot be agreed to at the central and local bargaining tables will be sent to arbitration. OSSTF FASO and its 60,000 members have been fighting and are prepared to keep fighting on behalf of public education and the students of Ontario. OSSTF FASO members deserve a fair collective agreement. They deserve a wage increase, and students deserve improved learning conditions. In this case, we are negotiating with a government who has intentionally and systematically underfunded public education. They have shortchanged students and have refused to be a fair partner in the bargaining process. And to this point, they've refused to engage in substantive talks. We know the Ford government doesn't respect labor negotiations, and they don't respect education or the people who work in education sector. But now this proposal opens up a significant pathway towards securing real investments in public education following years of chronic underfunding by the Ford government, underfunding by the billions, and years of suppressed wages and deteriorating learning and working conditions has led to serious staffing and retention issues. School boards across the province are struggling to find qualified people to fill education worker and teacher positions. The Ford government has betrayed workers, and they have betrayed students. Students deserve far better than deteriorating conditions, staff shortages, and cuts to essential education programming. And without a fair collective agreement for education workers and teachers, school boards will be forced to continue to make cuts to the supports and programs that students in Ontario rely on. Securing stability for students and staff in schools is OSSTF FASO's #1 priority. We have been working hard to end the government's stall tactics and force them to bargain fairly, with the intention to get a deal done for workers and students. And the decision made by our leadership today is a step toward a fair collective agreement. I can now take your questions.
Clara Pasico with CBC. So I think that some parents who might be listening to maybe both of these two press conferences back to back, they might just be a little bit confused what's happening and how it's impacting their kids. Can you clarify exactly what is tentative, what is not tentative, why you think something's not tentative, why you're unhappy with wording that was used just now by the minister?
Yeah, so the minister said a few times that there was a tentative agreement or a tentative deal, and that is absolutely incorrect. What our members and our leaders have agreed to at this point in time is that we will enter into a proposal that we will take to our members to say that we would be going to voluntary binding arbitration in order to get bargaining moving. We have been bargaining over 13 months and nothing has been happening, and the government has been saying we need stability. We do need stability, and this deal will provide that stability for the workers and the students of the province, and they deserve that.
So what you've agreed on is just the process?
Exactly, yeah. This is the process that we're looking at because 13 months, we haven't been able to get anything done at the bargaining table. So this is a process that will hopefully get bargaining moving. We might need to have another competent adult in the room going forward in the form of an arbitrator in order to pressurize and to make sure that the government is investing in the students of the province.
And how hopeful are you that this process will result in the types of asks that your members are asking for?
So first, because we are a democratic organization, we will take it to our members. In the month of September, we'll be working to make sure that they're informed and they have the ability to make a decision. But I'm confident then, because of the timeline set out in it, that we will have the best possible deal for OSSTF VASO members.
Mark with CP24, just want to ask you, I mean, you mentioned confidence there. This is a really short timeline, especially when you factor in the vote,
yep.
Obviously with 60,000 members. Talk to me, I mean, how confident are you that a deal will be reached before October 27th, before having to have a third-party arbitrator get involved?
Right. So we're in the Sheraton Hotel right now, and I've spent many days in this hotel bargaining, and we've really made very little progress. We have 5 days scheduled in September, but we're open to more. We have dates that we're going to have in October as well. You don't need to have 170 days to bargain to have a deal. You need good quality days, and we're not getting that right now. What we're getting is stalling tactics, and the government has agreed to this process, and I think it's really important that we take this opportunity that's been given to us, I think partly because of the really bad weeks that the Ford government has had in the press. I would say the Greenbelt has probably affected their willingness to look at this type of agreement going forward. They need some good news. They haven't had much.
All right, some major developments on the education front to tell you about. We heard from the education minister about an hour ago. He announced at Queen's Park that his government has reached a tentative deal, that's what he's calling it, with OSSTF. That's the union that represents public secondary schools in this province. He says members will vote on this, and if both parties do not agree, then they will enter binding interest arbitration. Now we're hearing from the union. It is saying that it is coming to an agreement here. The leaders of that union have voted to encourage members to accept a proposal, but they're only calling this a proposal, saying this is not a tentative agreement or a tentative deal.
Yeah, and so as Lena just said, members will go in September to vote on this. They'll hold an internal membership vote with more than 60,000 members and will vote on whether they want to accept that proposal. So a little bit of confusion there potentially for parents, but that is the latest. And
members will have the final say. That vote will be taking place in September, and the union, OSSTF, also saying the goal here is to get bargaining moving. Remember, all teachers' unions in this province have been without a contract for almost a year, so we'll keep a really close eye on that developing story.